He is the manager of the world champion Los Angeles Dodgers, kind enough to call back into this program. He is Dave Roberts. Congratulations, Skip.
Rich, my man, how are you doing?
I am doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm actually been quarantining, obviously, and I know we're going to talk about it, this
Yes.
Justin Turner thing. So now we all got to kind of go back to our homes and quarantine until the 11th. So I'm kind of laying low, which is actually not a bad thing.
Well, it seems like every time I talk to you, there is something going on. Last time was when there was a doubleheader up in San Francisco that you were either going to do or you weren't because of what was going on with COVID-19 and all of that stuff. But at least it wound up with you getting that championship, and that is where I'd like to start with you first, and what you think it means to you as the manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers to finally deliver that trophy to this franchise with all the pressures that comes with the gig.
You know what, Rich? Two words that you just mentioned that kind of resonate with me is finally and pressure. I think that, in my position, in my DNA, I don't really let that bleed into my job because I feel like it'll be compromised on the day-to-day. I'm always kind of looking forward to the next day. But after that last out was made, I think that the finality of it, the pressure that kind of seeped in ultimately kind of showed itself. And I feel a lot more relieved than I do overjoyed, which I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing, but I do think that the joy will kind of show itself even more. But I guess I just didn't appreciate the pressure that I was under, that I put myself on, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just so excited for the organization, the fans, and all that to win a championship.
Yeah, and it just, again, the amount of production that you got from so many players. I mean, it wasn't just one, two. It was pretty much your entire lineup up and down. As we saw, Corey Seager being the MVP. Mookie Betts is out of his mind just in terms of his talent, so on and so forth. But that Game 4 loss, you're called a manager for a reason. You're not a coach, you're a manager. You have to manage everything, not just pitch count, not just this, that, but humans as well. What did you do after that? What did you actually utilize in your arsenal to try and help turn the page there so successfully?
Yeah, you know what? I think for me it was, I think it was just continuing to remain positive. And there was something I did, and it was noted, and I brought it to light, is Pedro Baez came in, gave up a homer, went back out after I told him he was done, and gave up another homer, and we ended up losing that game. But I think for me is that I wanted to kind of clear the air with him and just take ownership that it was, whether it did impact or not that second inning, just say that, take ownership and say, apologize for that publicly. And I think that resonated with our clubhouse because some people heard I said he was down, and to go back out there and for their leader to say, own a mistake potentially, I think was powerful. And also just kind of, we have a lot of great people and players in the clubhouse that weren't going to be denied. And, yeah, it's not easy to win a championship, and you know as well as anybody. And so to kind of the players, how we're playing, some luck's got to be involved. And again, we just weren't going to be denied this year.
All right, so let's move to Game 6 then. Dave Roberts, manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers, here on the Rich Eisen Show. Mookie gave you a smile when Cash lifted Snell, huh? Did he? You guys locked eyes?
He did. I don't know if it was a smile or like a sigh of relief. So that's kind of what it was.
So what's your take as the opposing manager who obviously uses analytics in making decisions about the absolute torrent of criticism that Kevin Cash is receiving for removing Blake Snell when he did?
Yeah, you know what? I think that the thing is that I definitely feel bad for Cash. He's a heck of a manager. Players play hard for him. He understands the game, knows the game. I think in that situation, they went with something that was kind of pre-planned, that he wasn't going to see Mookie the third time. But anyone watching the game knows that, Mookie wasn't seeing him well. No one was seeing him well, and the stuff didn't kind of decline as far as Snell. And so when he changed, the momentum changed, and we felt good about it. Every manager has their own decisions and things like that. But if they don't work out, certainly more criticized than if they do work out.
So then let me remove you from the position I just put you in of coming across as second-guessing a colleague, and ask you, what would you rather make a mistake on, an analytics move or a gut and feel move?
You know what? That's a great question. I think I would rather make a mistake. That's a good question. It's a hard one, Richie, because it's like there's certain players that you can go with your gut with, and there's certain analytics, and you're putting it in a broad bucket and a wider bucket where the data, how much data, so it's a really hard one to answer, because I think that I've made mistakes going with my gut. I've made mistakes going with data. And I think the thing is that with the information, it's kind of trying to get ahead of what's going to happen, which no one knows. And I think in baseball, where when I played, let's say I was 6 for 12 off somebody, that doesn't mean the next 12 at bats I'm going to hit 500 against this player, but that's the mindset of the player. And so as a manager, you're trying to get and project what's going to be the next 12 at bats. So that's a really good debate, and I've made mistakes with both.
So then let's get to what happened with Justin Turner, and I appreciate you mentioning earlier that you knew this was coming. When did you find out that Justin Turner was COVID positive, Dave?
In the 7th inning, we were hitting, and I was on the bench, and our team president, Andrew Freeman, comes into the dugout, in the back part of the dugout, and calling me down. So I was like befuddled, obviously, and kind of weighs me down and says, we got to get Justin out of the game right now. The commissioner wants him out. He tested positive for COVID. And so at that point in time, we're all in shock. Justin's out of the game. I've got to get Edwin Rios ready to take third base and potentially taking it back. So that's when I found out. And then I guess he goes in the training room and gets kind of quarantined. I'm doing interviews. We win it. Celebration on the field. There's a team photo. I end up joining the photo late, sit next to Justin where he was in the photo, and kind of all heck kind of broke loose after that. Yeah.
What do you make of all the heck that you and the organization have received, Dave, about him coming out in the midst of the pandemic unmasked? And so many people were freaking out, I'll be honest, because you are a cancer survivor and you're sitting there next to him unmasked too.
No, and I really appreciate those sentiments, but I am the one who chose to sit next to him. I think for all of us, Rich, this is something new to everybody, this entire pandemic. So how to do things the right way, and now you kind of bake in emotion. We all could have done a better job, and that goes from Major League Baseball to the Dodgers to Justin to our personnel. I think we could have all done better. I think for me, I just kind of come from a place of I just hope and pray no one contracts the virus. Justin's fine. I look at what he's done for the city, the game of baseball, and never making anything about himself. And it kind of turned to this, and some of it is his own fault, and I understand that. Not all, but some of it. And I just hope it kind of passes. And we won a championship, 32 years, and finally, right? And so it's just unfortunate. This is the talk of the Dodgers 2020 championship, but I understand it. But hopefully we can kind of move forward once this kind of gets settled.
No, I know, and he's not just any Dodger either, and I know who he is and what he stands for and what he means to the team and the city and what he's done to make himself who he is and what a great guy he is, and the fact that he is now somebody who is the subject of a criticism it's unfortunate, but it's also in some ways, to be very honest with you, warranted. I'm wondering if there's any regret in the way all this went down.
I think so, and I think that's a fair assessment. And like I said, I think we could have all handled it better. I just think sometimes in this kind of world, grace is needed at times. And I think the body of work, the character of a person, the intent, I think should all be weighed in. And I just don't think Justin is getting the grace that he deserves. And knowing that there was mistakes on a lot of fronts.
Okay. And so is everybody fine? Is anybody showing symptoms?
As of now, we're fine. I've tested negative multiple times since that point. Same with our coaches, as I understand. So that's what I'm kind of hanging my hat on, and hopefully that kind of remains.
Okay. Who did you speak to when it was all over that you hadn't spoken to, or was from your past, or you got a text from somebody, anybody, a call that you were like, that's pretty cool?
You know what? Cito Gaston. That
cool.
was such a great call that I got, and I remember being in college watching the Blue Jays and winning back-to-back, and I played with Robbie Alomar, and just kind of seeing him as an African-American manager who won it. And for him to kind of watch me from afar, there was a great article in the Post, and for him to reach out by voicemail, that was really, really cool. I was really grateful for that one because we have no connection, no tie outside of, being black men who've managed Major League Baseball clubs that won a championship. So that was really cool.
That is pretty cool. Cito Gaston, who's a name I have not heard in quite some time. The Whamco Blue Jays. I remember that was what a hell of a team that was, and that's pretty cool that he called you.
And the other one was Sandy Koufax. So those two are probably at the top of the list.
No, you buried the lead, Dave. Come on, with all due respect to Cito.
No, but I will say this, though, Rich. Sandy and I are friends. So he's always there when times are tough, when times are going well. So he's as consistent as it comes. So that was more not expected. I'm very grateful for our relationship. But Cito was like off the radar. So I apologize for burying the lead.
It must be so cool. Look down at your phone. It says Sandy Koufax. Okay, let me take this call. That's so cool.
Seriously, that was really, really cool. And I will say this. Sandy called me before he called Clayton. So how about that?
That's also a great humble brag, too. I like it.
There you go, future Hall of Famer Kershaw. Sandy called me first.
Take that, Clayton. Hey, well, thanks for calling in, Dave. I always appreciate our chats. Congrats on the big win, and it's something that obviously is special for the city, for you, and I appreciate you also calling in. Even though you probably missed it, I did have the commissioner on Monday before the final game. And I do have my fellow Boston Red Sox friend over there, Chris Brockman, here. So I tried to get the Mookie Betts trade rescinded on his behalf, but it did not happen. It wasn't successful. You understand. You're a former Red Sox. You understand why I was attempting that for Chris.
I understand why you're attempting, but I am so grateful that trade did happen. Believe me.
Well, enjoy, Mookie, for the next umpteen years and enjoy this championship. Thanks for the call, Dave, and I'm glad you're feeling well.
All right, Rich. Take care. Thanks for having me.
You bet. That's Dave Roberts, L.A. Dodgers manager, championship manager. Cito Gaston. That is a name I have not heard.
I haven't heard in a while.
Quite some time.
Good one.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.